Let me present the scenario to you. Now, you and your family, you've rented a beautiful lodge overlooking the mountains. It's secluded, far enough away from the world that you don't have anything to worry about. You think all is going well, but you've gotten snowed in. And you're out of food. And the blizzard doesn't seem to be wanting to let up. At first, things go fine. You're getting a little irritable, but nothing too bad. But the snow won't let up. You're out of power, the gasoline reserves for your generator are going out, and you've eaten the last bit of food you have. A week and a half goes by. You're starving. You start going crazy in the head, and before you know it, you start hearing whispers telling you, maybe it's okay. Your kid Jimmy, he's weak. He's not gonna make it anyways. Maybe a little bite. The whispers just keep coming, and you can't stop yourself from thinking about it. A strange story, yes, but such a story is quite common for the people of the First Nations that lived here, especially if you live up in the Northeast or in the plains. A pale visage of a human being, just desperate for food. It'll do anything to keep eating, but as it eats, it gets bigger, making its hunger ever present.
Well, yeah, that's like an absolutely real thing that happens all the time. It's absolutely insane and so messed up. It's just a horrible, horrible thing to us humans.
Cannibalism in and of itself is just vile, but if you're starving, I guess. Which brings me to my point. Wendigo psychosis is a medical condition that almost exclusively affects First Nation peoples.
Meaning Native Americans.
Yes. And it's often characterized as people that have insatiable, destructive force inside of them. They become almost possessed by this desire to just eat and consume and just destroy. And I'm wondering if the Wendigo is something similar to that, or if maybe it's what the people thought it was, some kind of spirit.
I think it's even more scary that this Wendigo syndrome is probably what inspired the Wendigo legend, obviously. And that's even more scary because it's real, you know? Having these basically crackheads running around the forest, murdering anybody they see, like Shia LaBeouf.
Sure. Now, I have done a little bit of research onto, historical accounts, and what I keep finding with Wendigo stories is they're less supernatural in the same way that like a werewolf story would be, but they're more intense, because every time I keep looking into these, I keep reading about people just becoming ever consumed, and as they do so, they end up changing physically, right? Their skin pales, and they lose the colors in their irises. Their eyes become like this milky white. Modern day depictions, you've probably seen them if you Google them. They usually have like a skeletal figure with a deer's head.
Right.
That's nothing like the actual thing. The actual thing is like a very humanoid creature, like hunched over, almost like Gollum.
Oh yeah, I see Wendigo.
One of the things that I do keep seeing about stories with Wendigos is they're attracted to isolated and almost abandoned places. So, which, by the way, is why I brought up an isolated cabin in the little scenario I gave at the beginning. Speaking of meeting random, creepy strangers in the forest and wilderness, I hear you have a story to tell, Hunter.
Oh yes. It's not nearly as exciting as it sounds, because it's a real story. Real stories, if they're too excited, the person dies. But this is a true story that happened to me when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I used to go into the forest a lot near my home. I always liked the solitude and whatnot, and just the beauty of nature. It's great. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. That's what I liked. So exploring all of that, what I thought to be wilderness, is, really appealed to me. I have it written down here, so I will actually read it and sometimes go off script to sort of elaborate or explain. So, it's called Sounds in the forest. I would regularly delve into the depths of my local woods during my teenage years, enjoying the solitude and natural beauty of the outdoors. I was careful and tactful in the way with which I delved into the woods, gradually forming a mental map based on landmarks and a natural sense of direction. That is about the only wise thing I had done during my time there. I was a stupid fucking kid, honestly. I was armed with nothing but a blunt movie prop dagger that served less as a weapon and more as a sense of security for myself. Worse than that, I refused to wear my glasses, as I really held a great disdain for them. I didn't like glasses whatsoever. They made me look really nerdy and stupid. So, in a very potentially dangerous situation of going into a forest, I decided to not have, 20/20 vision, and instead have 0, 1 out of 20 vision, or whatever, however you measure it. But these would prove to be potentially dangerous mistakes. So at one point, having mentally mapped out a good portion of the land, I decided to delve deeper than I had ever gone before. Traveling on and on, I cut my way through thorns, vaulted over streams, and crested hills. I eventually found myself overlooking a creek that carved a deep gorge into the forest floor, measuring around 6 feet deep and 12 feet across. Jumping it wasn't an option, and I opted to find a natural crossing, traveling upstream until I came across a bridge formed by a fallen tree. Pushing my way towards it, I stopped in my tracks as I listened to something I've never heard in the forest before. It was so close, as my senses pinpointed the source to be just across the creek, just over the natural bridge. It was clapping. Not anything like the applause of crowds, but a rhythmic clapping. I felt confused, and I assumed it was another hiker clapping. I called out to the person, "Hello! It's not common to see someone so deep in the forest." The clapping stopped when I started to speak, as if it was listening before briefly starting again, stopping. I was very confused, but my confusion turned into bemused curiosity. I raised my hands and clapped with a different rhythm, not knowing what to expect. Mostly I did this because I was curious, but I also was just like, you know what? You want to clap at me? I'll clap at you too, you son of a bitch. So it's like I was playing a game with this person who clearly just wanted to scare me. And so I clapped, but with a different rhythm. When I finished, I was surprised to hear clapping from across the creek, as if in response. But the clapping was done with the same rhythm I had just done, so it copied me. It stopped, and I clapped with yet another rhythm, which it too copied. From this, I could ascertain that the source was indeed real, just over the creek, understood the concept of music as it copied the rhythm, and clearly was intelligent. To my relief, I concluded that the only logical answer was indeed that it was a human, as no other creature in our world can do something like that other than a person. Now, normally someone with logical sense, not me, would say, oh, this is really weird. Even if it's a person, that person's clapping at me in the middle of the forest. I'm gonna run. I didn't think that. Even today, I am a naturally trusting person, and I think the best of people in most circumstances. My thinking is that it was probably just a kid trying to scare me, some other teenager or something. So I called out to the source, "I'm coming over the creek. I mean no harm to you." I said, "I mean no harm to you," because I thought they were scared of me, because I was armed with what they saw as a big, very deadly dagger. In reality, it wasn't. There was complete silence as I made my way over the natural bridge. Stepping off onto solid ground, I squinted my blurry eyes, searching the area around me. To clarify, I wasn't wearing my glasses, so all of my vision was blurry. I couldn't see anything. And as I scanned the area around me, with nothing sound, with no sound at all, a horrendously loud sound erupted, seemingly from all directions. I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. It was loud, a horrible, forgive me, bah! Rang out. The sound of a bleeding goat. Yes, completely random, and I have no idea. But it didn't sound natural. It wasn't a natural bah from a goat. It was sickly and malformed. My eyes naturally widened in horror. My stomach dropped like a lead ball. I drew my blunt dagger and spun around violently, desperately looking for any movement, listening for footsteps of something charging towards me or running away, crunching leaves or shifting branches to indicate that something around me is moving. For some seconds, I stood as no sound nor figure showed itself. The forest was silent. I slowly began to relax, and my eyes shifted towards the natural bridge from which I came. I stepped back onto the fallen tree and walked, as calmly as I could, back into the direction of my home, keeping a blurry eye over my shoulder. Now, you would think that I would hightail it out of there, sprint even. No, I didn't do that, because in my mind, I was thinking, alright, whatever this thing is, it may not be human, and it could very well be a predator, whatever it is. So if I run, it will probably chase me, or there'll be a higher chance of it chasing me. And so I was able to keep my cool and just walk, tense. And my mind on the way back was reeling, trying to process what had just occurred. I am a rational person, but the question of why, who, and what still rattles in my head. What was that truly just another person trying to scare me? Or was it something far more nefarious?
First off, there's no dangerous predator in the woods more so than another human being. Secondly, you live in New Jersey, sir. And you didn't think to consider that, I don't know, maybe it could be like, I don't know, sheep squatch, or maybe... or maybe the Leeds Devil?
I've told people this, and they said it was the Jersey Devil a lot of the times. You know, dying and whatnot. I don't know. I really don't know. It's one of those mysterious things that happen, and you'll never find an answer for it.
That's fair, but also, please, for the love of God, if you are ever going into the woods, this is a public service announcement for everybody listening. Please, for the love of God, bring a firearm. That being said, please, for the love of God, go into the woods with someone else with you at least.
Here's a fun idea. There are knives that have a kind of a screw-on function. You can sort of like screw off the handle, and what you can do is you can take a broomstick, a hefty, strong broomstick with a non-aluminum head, and you can screw it onto that. So in essence, you have a mobile spear. And it's only illegal when the spear is on that. And, you know, when the spear is active, you are in a state where you're going to need it, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't have put it on there.
I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think a spear is going to stop the Leeds Devil.
Well, here's the thing. The Leeds Devil doesn't exist. You'll be going up against something far more horrifying.
Sheep squatch?
Sheep squatch, yes. Absolutely.
All jokes aside, I would like to say that a story like that is absolutely terrifying, except if you're a hunter.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't get, like, I don't know. I haven't been in a situation that forced me to be like primal monkey brain scared. Something like that, it was more like confusion and be like, what the fuck? And I was able to hold my ground and keep my cool. I don't know.
Now, let me just follow that up with, Hunter, did you just walk onto some random hillbilly's land and hear him clapping cheeks with sheep squatch and then get confused as to what was happening?
It really was sheep squatch. The clapping.
Whenever I leave my house, I have something on me for protection.
Right.
Generally, the fact that you have something on you is enough to intimidate people.
Is it for that, or is it for a sense of security for yourself, like me with the...
A little bit of both, except my knives are actually functional. I do it as legally as I can, and I would recommend everyone do that as per their state law, yada yada. I'm not a lawyer. But I do make it a point that if I'm going into the woods, I have something on me. And like I said, go into the woods with somebody else.
Yeah. Honestly, like with what happened to I won't say the details at all, because that's for next week, but I have made it a rule for myself that if I ever go camping, not like a camping room, but hiking, like we did before, have weapons, like a sword or something, or a spear, like I mentioned before. It's going to protect me against real things, like other humans. Or, like coyotes or something, which are more likely to attack you.
Hunter, would you like to plug anything before we end?
Plug any? Nah, I don't got stuff to say. Not to you guys.
Oh, wow. Insult my audience, why don't you?
They're not my audience.
Hey, bro, imagine that.
I'm sorry, guys. Please don't unsubscribe from talks.
Nice save.
Yeah, thank you. I try. I really do.
Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm leaving that in.